As anyone who's been recently watching my channel will know, I'm working on a large content mod for Terraria that, in addition to adding reworks for every unmodded boss, will be adding a fair amount of unique bosses to the game. And thanks to months of hard work and dedication, the mod is now nearly at the point where it can be published, with only 2 more bosses needing to be added. However, that isn't all there needs to be done. Any self-respecting boss needs to have good loot to incentivize players to fight it. I've been slacking off on this part for quite a while and just focusing on making the actual boss fights. So, taking a break from that, I've spent the past 2 weeks making appropriate loot for 2 of my boss fights and also making some miscellaneous changes that weren't big enough to justify their own videos. I'll be showing you these new features in a moment, but first, if you haven't heard, 100% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you're watching this video and you aren't subscribed yet, then you don't exist. Starting out, the Desert Phantom has been somewhat nerfed to make the fight a little bit less brutal. The statues have reduced health, and the Phantom moves a lot more slowly between attacks to make him easier to shoot. The Phantom now also has its own selection of questionably strong weapons. First, there's the Pharaoh's Eye, a boomerang that, when striking enemies, summons homing flames to deal additional damage. It's pretty good against single targets, and pretty good against crowds too, so it's just all around good. Next, there's the Architect's Tome, a magic weapon that summons stone blocks that crash down after a short delay. It's rather slow and clunky to use, but it does an obscene amount of damage for a magic weapon to compensate. And last, there's the Pharaoh's Staff, a summon weapon. This one's a little more complicated to explain. What it basically does is it spawns an invisible entity that follows you around and passively spawns flames in a large area around you. These flames will home in on nearby enemies. Needless to say, its damage is rather inconsistent, so it does a remarkable amount of damage to compensate. And like any summon, you can summon multiple of them to increase flame output. Moving on, the Ether Dragon has been renamed to Etherworm, as some commenters helpfully pointed out that this was a much more appropriate name. The Etherworm has also received its own selection of weapons. Most, if not all, of these were based off of commenter suggestions, so good job with that, guys. First, there's the Ether Edge, a sword that shoots out a shotgun spread of stars that pierce through enemies, making it pretty much the best melee weapon in pre-hard mode. Next, there's the Ether Bow, which turns wooden arrows into piercing lasers, firing 3 in a straight line with each shot. But perhaps the most popular request for my previous video was to add the Etherworm as a minion, and well, I can't resist peer pressure, so here you go. Isn't she a beauty? And that pretty much covers everything, but what would this video be without a brand new change to the beloved Eater of Worlds rework? Apparently some people think you could trivialize the fight by simply using dynamite to deal damage instead of grenades. I don't know if that's entirely true, but I'm not taking any chances. Now, if you try to use any variant of dynamite while the Eater of Worlds is alive, it'll just fly harmlessly into space. Feel free to let me know if you think of any more cheese strategies. I'd be happy to crush your dreams again. Anyway, this video is over now. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. Thank you, goodbye.